Nobody in that chamber had a clue what was brewing. For the first 40 minutes, everything played out by the book. Members of Congress grilled Bondi over Dodge budgets and standard policy matters. Bondi swatted the inquiries away with her usual polished, evasive grace. She even casually glanced at her smartphone, looking mildly irritated by the boredom. Then Jasmine Crockett reached out, clicked her microphone on, and sucked all the air out of the room. Madam Attorney General, I want to discuss an email dispatched from your office on February 23 ARD. Initially, Bondi didn't flinch. She was used to anonymous leaks and wild conspiracy theories. But as Crockett deliberately flipped open that blue folder, the atmosphere in the room shifted violently. The chamber fell into a profound, suffocating hush, the kind of heavy silence that only drops when everyone realizes a massive scandal is breaking live. It wasn't a polite pause. It was an electric anticipation. Camera shutters fired, and journalists stopped typing entirely. Crockett lifted the first sheet of paper, holding it up for the lenses. Page 1, she stated evenly. She didn't have to raise her voice. This is an internal communication from the Deputy Assistant Attorney General to the Doge's Financial Management Division, dated February 23rd. Subject line, Settlement Authorization. She paused, letting the suspense hang, before reading the very next line, Epstein-related claims. You could physically feel the collective gasp. Just uttering Jeffrey Epstein's name on Capitol Hill triggers an immediate panic. Crockett kept reading. In this email, the immediate wire transfer of $2.3 million is authorized to Executive Legal Services LLC recipient location, the Cayman Islands. Suddenly, the reporters were aggressively hammering their keyboards. $2.3 million offshore account. Epstein-related claims. Those phrases strung together don't just raise red flags, they trigger sirens. Crockett lowered the paper and locked eyes with Bondi. Madam Attorney General, do you know exactly what claims this payout was settling? Bondi leaned into the mic, maintaining her icy composure. Congresswoman, I categorically reject any insinuation of improper financial conduct within the Dodge, she offered. It was a textbook, carefully manicured evasion. Crockett didn't flinch. She calmly moved the first document aside and raised the second page too. This is the official reply from the Financial Management Division on February 24th. She read the text that made half the room physically recoil. Transfer executed, $2.3 million wired. Documentation sealed under attorney-client privilege, per Attorney General's directive. Crockett leaned closer to her mic. Attorney-client. Privilege, she echoed, her gaze burning into Bondi. That's fascinating, considering that privilege only shields conversations between a legal representative and their client. A low murmur swept through the rows of spectators. So the ultimate question is, Crockett tapped the document, who exactly is the client here? Is it the United States Department of Justice, or is it Jeffrey Epstein's estate? Cameras tight panned to Bondi. A defense lawyer immediately leaned over to whisper aggressively into the Attorney General's ear. But Crockett was far from done. She reached back into the blue folder and extracted the third piece of paper, the one destined to blow the roof off the Capitol. When she hoisted that final page, a palpable wave of dread washed over the witness table. Page 3, she announced. This is an official mandate sent from the Attorney General's office to all division heads within the Justice Department. Dated February 25th, exactly one day after the money was wired. Crockett read the damning text aloud. All records pertaining to Settlement Agreement J225 are hereby classified as attorney work product and fully exempt from Freedom of Information Act requests. Any media or legal inquiries must be routed directly to the Attorney General. No exceptions. She stopped, pointing a single finger at the bottom of the page, and right. Here, her tone cutting like glass, is the exact signature authorizing this total blackout on the massive monitors behind her. The document materialized in 10-foot-tall, high-definition glory. Pam Bondi's unmistakable signature. The room erupted. Reporters shot to their feet. Cameramen shoved each other for better angles. Committee members strained their necks to stare at the screens, while the chairman furiously pounded his gavel trying to wrangle the chaos. But the secret was out. $2.3 million had vanished into an offshore account for Epstein-related legal matters, and 48 hours later, a total gag order was signed by the highest-ranking law enforcement officer in the country. One of Bondi's legal counsels sprang up so violently his chair tipped backward. Mr. Chairman, I vehemently object. Take a seat, counselor, Crockett snapped back flawlessly. Your client is perfectly capable of speaking for herself. All lenses pivoted back to Pam Bondi. She was staring at her own magnified signature. Madam Attorney General, Crockett asked softly, "Do you recognize this order? Do you recognize your own handwriting?" Absolutely nothing. The silence stretched tight. Bondi's palms were pressed flat against the mahogany desk, her knuckles completely drained of color. A tiny muscle fluttered near her jawbone, a pure, involuntary stress reflex caught on dozens of 4,000 cameras. And it gets worse, Crockett pressed on. She stacked the 3 pages together. Just 72 hours before this payout, you sat on national television and boldly stated, "I will never shield anyone tied to Jeffrey Epstein. The American public demands the truth." 3 days later, $2.3 million is quietly shipped offshore to settle Epstein claims, and the files are immediately buried. Crockett wasn't done yet. And her final blow would shatter whatever decorum remained. She turned to her open laptop and cast a new image onto the giant monitors, because the cover-up goes deeper. This is an internal Treasury Department memo from a financial crimes analyst, dated February 26th. She read the analyst's stark warning: highly irregular payment structure, offshore beneficiary, zero legitimate business justification. Recommend immediately filing a suspicious activity report to investigate potential money laundering. Lawmakers nervously looked at each other. On Capitol Hill, a suspicious activity report is no joke. It's the legal tripwire banks use to flag illicit money movement. But here is the real tragedy, Crockett noted grimly. That recommendation vanished. The analyst's memo was classified, and the money laundering probe was permanently shut down. Crockett leaned forward, her voice radiating absolute authority. "So this is the question the American people demand you answer right now. Who killed the suspicious activity report? Was it you, Madam Attorney General?" Before Bondi's lips could even part, her lead attorney lunged toward the microphone, his voice dripping with panic. "Mr. Chairman, my client is invoking her constitutional rights under the Fifth Amendment." Pandemonium, gasps, yelling, journalists frantically texting their news desks. The Fifth Amendment, the constitutional right to avoid self-incrimination. And now, the highest law enforcement officer in the United States was using it to dodge questions about a multi-million-dollar Epstein payoff. Crockett didn't bat an eye. She looked like a chess grandmaster who just announced mate in one. The Attorney General of the United States, Crockett declared into the mic, believes that speaking about this offshore payment might criminally implicate her. Did everyone catch that? And then the room descended into that infamous, agonizing pause. No explosive outbursts, no fiery monologues, just pure, suffocating silence. Pam Bondi sat paralyzed at the witness table, staring blankly ahead while her frantic lawyers whispered desperately into both of her ears. The cameras zoomed in uncomfortably close. Nobody dared to type. Even the hostile lawmakers were too stunned to interject. The Attorney General had just pled the Fifth, leaving her entirely mute. Later, political reporters would precisely clock that terrifying void. 83 seconds. 83 agonizing seconds where Bondi could have vehemently denied the entire thing. 83 seconds to justify the offshore wire, clarify the gag order, and defend her honor. But she didn't offer a single syllable. Opposite her, Jasmine Crockett methodically collected her 3 pages: the authorization, the wire receipt, and the cover-up directive. These documents, Crockett stated, holding them aloft, are being officially entered into the congressional record today. Every single email, every wire transfer, every signature. The American public is going to see them all. She looked right through the silent Attorney General, because at the end of the day, $2.3 million of taxpayer funds were shipped offshore to clean up Jeffrey Epstein's mess. And eventually, we are going to expose exactly who got that cash and why. I yield my time. Technically, the committee hearing droned on for another hour, covering mundane immigration policies and antitrust laws. But the reality was, the hearing was over. Within moments, the explosive footage was completely dominating the internet. Cable news anchors interrupted their regular broadcasts. Elite legal scholars began fiercely debating if the Attorney General had just triggered a massive obstruction of justice probe, and across every social media platform, one specific phrase skyrocketed to the top of the trending charts: 83 seconds, because sometimes you don't actually need a verbal confession to uncover a massive conspiracy. Sometimes all it takes is 3 sheets of paper, one undeniable signature, and a silence so deafening that an entire nation can't ignore it.